Alright guys, so where we're at right now is it's the day after the big snow in December, and we have a chance now to look at this thing. So I took the plug out, and let's just take a peek at the plug. Let me go to one of the cameras and so the plug looks okay. I'm just going to hit it with the wire wheel real fast. And we're going to put a little bit of my special two-stroke drink mix, energy drink mix, just to get this thing sloshed around. So let's start off with that. And then we'll check for pressure. Uh-oh. Did you just hear that? Whoa. You guys just hear that, right? I can't pull it. I can't pull it. Yeah, it's locked up. Wow. Absolute wow. It just locked up. What do you think that means? I heard something like drop. Now there's oil in it. Okay, let me show you. And I don't think it's bad. Doesn't smell bad. It's pretty clean. There is a little bit of gas in it. And it's like I heard something drop. So, what if... may have to go to the other machine, because I have another machine that is running. It's a 5 horsepower Briggs. So this is an 8 horsepower 26 inch. And by the way, it's also not an electric start. Okay. So this is the only way. So did this lock up? Did something in the motor break? Let's take this cover off next. All right, I guess we got to dig in. I'm going to start taking off this cover. It's just a couple of bolts, but I got to get down in there and get down and dirty. Let me get that scenario situated. I think I'm going to pop one of my lights on here because it's a little dark, and so this way we can see a little bit better. And I'll be back in a few.
A few moments later.
I took the cover off, and it's just a couple of bolts. So you got a bolt here on this piece of plastic and a bolt here, and it looks like it's broken a little bit. So somebody tried to repair it, and that's okay. Right? Maybe we could do a better job. Now, the first thing I noticed was I took the cover off, and I took my water pump pliers, or whatever you want to call these channel locks, and I moved around, and I heard something sticking. And I'm thinking either it's down below. Hear it? Hear it? Hear that? Something's banging. So, could be something sticky and it needs lubrication and it's hanging up. Could even be in this pull starter cover. But it does sound lower. So let's give it a pull. It's stuck again. I think it's in here. So we could try pulling that pull starter off. We really need to take the whole thing off, but it's stuck again. Now it pulls. Boy, that would suck if you're pulling it and it all of a sudden locks up. That's gonna hurt. So we need to go over this thing. But let's put, I'd like to say, let's take a little bit of Croil, and let me zoom you out a little. And I'm going to shove a little Croil up into here. Just, I guess, whatever I can get, just for now. Just to thinking, maybe, maybe, I don't know if I'm getting at it. So, put a little in here. put a little bit more of a magic juice in. Pull it around and let's check for spark. You know, the belts don't look too bad. We won't know until I get a little deeper in there. That feels a little bit better. You know, remember this thing's been sitting. Let me just go wheel off the plug real fast and check spark. All right, we got something a little bit cleaner. Let's see. Let me put my wire on, my test lead. I gotta make one of those. Just basically grab a clamp or something, like an electrical clamp, and weld it to the end of a plug. Now, hopefully I can see it. Get this out of my way. I really can't see it. That's a bit better. Yeah, we got spark. Alright. It's dry in there. So let's put a little bit more lubricant into it. I don't know why they call it lubricant. Lubricant. It should be lubricant, not lubricant. Well, if the lubricant can't, then what? There we go. Let that stir around. Now, there's also no shutoff valve on the gas tank. And I can see it should be right here, and I don't see anything. And it has some of that old fuel in it. So, what we'll do is we'll spike a little bit more fuel into it. This is just regular gas. Okay. I'm just going to give that a quick tightening. Just snug it. You want to see what compression is first, we could try that. You know, you want to see what it looks like? Yeah. It'll blow. We'll add a little bit more fuel in a minute. Let's just get a feel for what it's like. And that the compression gauge will push some of that liquid around a little bit more too. It doesn't look like a terrible machine. It's not a bad machine. Got 3, 4, 5 pulls. Uh-oh. I'm not getting anything, guys. Stuck valve? I'm not getting anything. I say it could be a stuck valve. So I'm not seeing anything. We should have developed something. Now I know how these things can be. Their cams can be set up so that we had this similar scenario on the other Tecumseh, and I'm not getting anything. Where they don't make much compression. Well, I'm not getting anything, but they don't make much compression on the low RPM, so it's easier to pull. We just don't know if this is the case. Put my finger on it. There's some there. You know, it feels like it's something. Why it's not triggering the gauge, I don't know. Maybe the gauge is faulty. Who knows? All right, so let's just pour a little bit more fuel into it. Let's put the plug in. We'll validate and verify later. It has to do with their cam profiling. It's, you know, it has to do with duration and overlap. And if there's a lot of overlap of the exhaust valve with the intake valve, and if the exhaust valve opens up again, it'll blow compression off, and that's how a lot of these things are. And it makes it easier to pull. And they run like crap at low RPM because of that. But when you hit, you know, these things aren't made to idle. All right, so now what do we have now? So what we have is we have fuel going into the carburetor. Let me grab a rag, and I wonder if there is one of those purge valves on the carburetor. Yes, there is. So we're getting We're getting some fuel out of it. I'm just going to purge a little bit of it. All right, so we have that. So keys in. It's up to full RPM. Let's prime it and see if it does anything. I know it was pretty nasty underneath there. All right, here we go. All right, so she has compression, but she's not starting, really. She's not, excuse me, she's starting, she's not running. So she ran on whatever fuel I poured in there. And I can guarantee you, she's not going to keep going. So next step is, let me just open the door. Let's take a peek into the carburetor. So I'm going to set up for that. We'll put it up. We'll see how far we can get it. And I'll move you so you could see what I'm looking at. Because right now you're looking at a tire and the other guy's looking at an overview. So I'll be right there and we're going to set up. Probably going to need to take the carburetor off. But let's just see what we got going on.
5 minutes later.
All right, let's just take a close look. But what we want to look at right now is we're going to look at the arrangement of the throttle shafts. So this outer one on the governor arm goes to the carburetor. All right. And the other one goes to the throttle control. So let me just switch hands here and we'll see. See, this one is part of the throttle control here. And this guy down here, think that's your throttle there, and it's pulling on the outer rod. All right, now let's go take this thing off. It's time. So this, by the way, this cover came right off. All right, this wasn't a big deal. And I grabbed the two Phillips here. There was another screw around the side, and then there was this electrical kill. I just had to unplug that. So I threw a little lubricant. We have a bunch of tins sitting around now, so we're slowly getting this thing apart. I just threw a little lubricant on these guys. Throw a little bit more. Oh, I just lost my light. Hold on. Oh, there we go. And we're going to want to take the muffler off to clean it and paint it, if everything works out. Which it should. Okay, because this thing should run fine. Now, before we take those covers off, let's just work the carburetor angle first. Let me get a little screwdriver or something. Well, hopefully we don't wreck the gasket. Let's just give it a little tug. There we go. Oh, there's water in here. Look. I'll show you in a minute. Now, we have a fuel line we got to deal with. So I'm going to put more of this juice on there. And this fuel line is very hard to deal with. When it needs to be replaced, you have to pull these covers off. So we don't know yet. So that's why I like to use plenty of lube. And I'm going to get my pair of pliers. Here. Get my other pair. These guys, my weapons. Yeah, water definitely went in here. That's not good. We want to get that out. So it might have destroyed the carburetor. In which case, this motor's gacked. Now, I have a lot of other machines, but it's buried out in the snow. So that we might be on a mission because I don't have this carburetor. So we'll find out. Let's see if I can get this way. Yeah, this one's better. In here, try to get that out. We'll tighten the space here. Alright, that works. Now we should be able to put a little bit more of this Somalians on, and I just give it a twist. on. Emollients. No, it's just a lubricant to help pull it, you know, so that it just spins and comes off, and hopefully we don't wreck it. It wants to come off. Hopefully we don't break it. It's starting to go. Let's get a little bit more lubricant underneath there, so we don't overstress it. Just gonna give it a. There we go. Wants to go. Kind of limited. Fuel's going into the carburetor, that's for sure. Now, it's probably going to leak. So, before I pull it the rest of the way, let me crimp off the line on the other side. And I have a crappy pair of vice grips, Chinese. Eventually I'll get one of those hose crimpers. I keep forgetting to buy them, they're cheap. And we'll see, we'll go up on the bench. Now, this rod is in the hole that's furthest away from me, that's closest to the engine. Alright? So you guys gotta remind me. Now let's see, what's the best way? Is it taking it off here? Good, we'll take it off here. What do you think? So it's in this hole. It's actually in there's like a triad. I see there's another hole.
5 minutes later.
So it's pretty dirty. But we know where that one goes. It's sort of like a triangle. So let's take that out. All right, let's piss out juices. Let's do a cleanup first. I can almost guarantee you that I think what we're going to find in here is that it's no good. So let's take a look. I was just going to say, I normally do a cleanup first, but by the way, this goes to here, but also there's a flat here, so I'll show you what's going on with that. Normally, I clean the outside first, but I really want to see what's going on with this. See the chunks? That's delicious. Now, this is all kind of, oh wow. A little screwdriver or something. This is like varnish. So hopefully it's more varnish on the inside. And the verdict is, all right, we got gelled fuel. And it's got some gel on it, but I think we might be okay. You know? That came out. This came out, you know, so jelly, but and smelly, but it's not terrible. Yeah, I think we might get lucky on this, guys. All right, so what I'm going to do is just start off with my usual. I'm going to take some of my really crappy solvents, and actually now's a good time to go through them. Here's some real old stuff, or stuff with a lot more junk in it. See, that's nasty down there. So we got to get that out. I'll clean that out a little bit. But this will start the process at least. We can at least get started. Oh, that jelly is nasty. That's probably from alcohol. Yeah, it's like slimy. So I don't think this is going to come, it's not going to come off with this. This is going to require some lacquer thinner. So eventually I'll buy one of those vibrating things. I'll get a vibrator. Now we don't want to leave this gasket in here too long, so let's just give it a wipe. It's a little beat up, but it should be okay. You want to put something like that in a little bit of kerosene, maybe. Not too bad. Might work again. All right, let's just leave it to dry. Okay, you don't want to leave that in there while we're working on everything else. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. All right, I'm going to work on cleaning this up. I'll do that off camera because nobody wants to see that, but we'll come back in a bit and we'll see how we're making out. Yeah.
20 minutes later.
All right, I managed to get this out after kind of poking at it. That's important. That's your emulsion tube, and there is gack. Oh, yes, there is. There is quite a bit of gack in here. Yeah, we're going to rinse that through and run it through. It's getting there. All right, maybe we'll put that. We don't want to get. We don't want to this little rubber thing here. We don't want to get too much gum out on that. So we're going to take one of these. Just try to run it in. This thing was really nasty. It seems like it's okay, and there's a little hole there, so we're going to have to just try to blow it through. There's another, I think there's another little hole there, so let's start off with. Man, this thing is really gacked. You know, we'll have to look at this closer. There's a little hole there. Let's just give it a blow. Low pressure. I just come over to it every now and then and give it a brush. Is that an O-ring? I think I grabbed an O-ring. Yeah, I don't know if it's from this machine or it's from another one, but I think it might be from this machine. There's an O-ring on this. So it probably came off. I have to get it off the rest of the way. I think it broke. Yeah, it did break. Alright, so we have a problem. It's probably this O-ring up here. Now, can we use some other kind of O-ring? If it's the right size, yes. Unfortunately, we're going to need to solve that problem. I'm glad I caught that. I don't know if I have another one of these carbs, but we're going to need that seal. Generally, I don't take these out, but this had a lot of cook in it. And we might be able to use a regular O-ring. Alright, we're basically done with this guy. I'm going to work on just cleaning a few other parts. I took the choke assembly off because it was so bad. You know, what else you gonna do? I got in here really good. It just needs to be blowed. Let's bloat it. And maybe I have an O-ring like that. I certainly have smaller regular O-rings, but this one is like more of a square kind of, I guess is the lack of a better description. Alright, let me blow this out. We'll take a quick look at it. And then I'll finish up, so I leave the window open. It's cold out, but I want to be able to put away the chemicals, you know, before I'm done. And this is still really nasty. Now, like I said, I don't think I can get to the other engines. We have to order a carburetor kit, like a rebuild kit. That would suck because it's going to take a while to get. But, you know, if we have to. The body is not damaged. Unlike some of the others, and it came apart. So we have to say that's good. Alright, so maybe a rebuild kit of some kind. The jet's still doing its thing. So I'm going to go back and work the other little parts and get cleaned up in here, and then we'll start maybe tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be tonight because I'm getting tired, so it might be tomorrow. But we'll get everything back into the container, nice, keep it in the tray, straighten up, and then I'll figure out what kind of O-ring I have. And maybe we can just use a regular O-ring, and hopefully it'll be enough.
1 hour later.
Alright, started cleaning this up just by holding it with the plier and a wire brush, and now I'm going to do my pokey thing. And it was a little stuck in here. That's for sure. Yeah, there was junk in that. Quite a bit. You know, damn it, I can press it. I don't have the light on. Looks good. Alright, this is done. Okay, now I can clean up. I'll be back.
Eventually.
Alright, let's get this thing on. Now, you got a lot of crust in here. So, how about I take a little bit of spray lube or something, spray that in there and sort of wipe it out because it's kind of nasty. And that's how valves get stuck. Let's get that junk out, or at least minimize it. Now, oh, it's crusty. It's crusty. Get up in there a little bit more. That'll at least loosen it up. You know, I don't really want it going in to the engine because it's abrasive because it's an aluminum oxide, which is, you find that in sandblasters. That should do it. And that'll spruce up the valve in there a little bit. We'll get the gasket. Why don't I tell you what, while we're here, let me get a rag. All right, let's take a little bit of old gas. And we'll wipe this down over here. While I'm here, we'll take off the side cover later because we need to figure out what's going on with that. It's getting jammed, and I don't think that I can just spray lubricant in it and that's going to solve it. It might, but you got the magneto you want to look at. Maybe clean it, make sure it's gapped okay. Now let's just give it a really good tune-up and service. Hold your ears. Oh, there's a lot of junk in there. Get that out. I always wear my glasses whenever I'm doing this stuff. I've gotten enough gum out and junk in my eyes. I'm not super into safety, but I don't like getting hurt. I'm getting too old for that, and I got too many other health issues. All right, now we got a carburetor, and basically just going to slip that in just like that. Super easy. Now what we want to do, let's put a little bit of lubricant. I think I'm going to have to go get my other pair of pliers and get this hose on. What now? Yeah, hold on, let me get my proper pair of pliers. Alright, let's get this hose on now while we can get to it. Hose looks like it's in decent shape. Just trying to make sure the cameras are getting me. Oh, we're golden. I just put a little bit of lubricant on this. Now if you want, right, be a good idea to put a little bit of anti-seize on these guys so that the next guy, which could be me, will get them off. Oh, it wants to live here. I like it when things, are nice and clean and they just want to go. They don't argue. Sure, I like a challenge, but I also like it sometimes when things just go. I'm trying to see if we can get this thing going, and it feels like it's under a little bit of pressure. Now, what kind of pressure is it under? It's the hose that needs to push back. That's why I like to feel everything to see what the hell's going on. I'm just going to hand tighten it. That's beautiful. All right, we're ready. Now let's just check to see we're okay. Throttle's opening. All right, we'll have to manually do the choke, but we're not going to choke it. What we're actually going to do is we're going to see about throwing fuel down in it. We'll worry about choking it later. Now this is, I think a piece of this primer hose broke, so we may have to replace the primer hose. But it looks like it's going on. It sounds like it's going good, so we're golden. All right, let's get this down on all fours, and we'll get the fuel in it, and we're going to give it a check. Now we've been into the plug, we've been into here, we have oil in it. So we're ready for the next step, guys. Nice. And there you have it. Isn't that nice? Oh, believe it. All right, guys. Let's give it a test. Now, remember, all right, we still have this issue over here, so I got to be careful. That thing locks up while I'm pulling it. That's not going to be That's not going to be fun. All right. I poured some gas in it. It's not leaking. All right. Took the clamp off of the hose. It wasn't leaking. I just poured raw fuel in it. Now, let's give it a little bit of a prime. I don't know if that's going to do anything. All right, now what we see is a typical hunting that these Tecumseh motors do, but as soon as I put that on the auger, right, that tends to go away. And I was playing around a little bit with the choke, and of course it doesn't really make much of a difference until I go a little too far. She starts to load up, and then she loses RPMs. Now, there must have been a bunch of junk in here because it was kicking, I don't know what it was kicking out, but it was kicking something out. And we got two pulleys on, two belts on that pulley, one being looser than the other. Can't do much about that. We got to get in there and take a look at that. I don't think drilling out the carb will do anything. You got to remember that these Tecumsehs run crappy. They are snowblowers, and when you start, they don't have like a consistent load. They just don't. You run the auger, and then you start pulling snow in. it's going to clean up a lot. You can tell the more load you put on it, put it in gear a little bit, she wants to smooth out. I let up and she's hunting all over the place. If anybody wants to make a comment on that, it is a Tecumseh. I just did a pull-in with a Tecumseh on it. My Briggs does it a little bit, but I can actually make my Briggs run a little bit better. Gee, I wonder why. Anyway, so I think we're good here, guys. I don't see it leaking, but I'm gonna go in and grab some food after it airs out in here. And I'll come back after I grab some food, and we'll start thinking about what's the next thing to do. Now, what I would like to do is pull the muffler off and give it a good cleaning, just a quick cleaning, and spray a little bit of my fantastic paint on it. I think that would be nice. We could have that out of the way, put it back on, it'll look a bit better. While that's off, right, if we want, we could take off this cover here, and we can get in there and look to see what's going on, and maybe we can take this cover off too while everything's off. If we can do that, we can check the bolt torque just to make sure, at least make sure it's tight. Figure out the crap that's in here and why it was locking up. Let's make sure we're okay and lubricate it there so the customer doesn't have that problem again. Tank seems to be okay, it didn't look dirty. We'll bleed some fuel out, I let some of it run out. She seems fine, and then we got to flip her up. After we get the motor done, we got to flip her up because we got to take care of the drive system.